And we're back. Wooed Up Season 2, Episode 1.
Season 2, Episode 1.
Yes, ma'am.
We made it.
We're here.
We are here. I always want to say we're here and we're queer.
Because this is true.
Yes. Okay, great.
What are we talking about for this episode? How are we bringing it back in?
Okay, so it's Season 2, and we're here to kiki. And we're here to kiki about the good stuff. And by the good stuff, I mean spirituality, of course, and also religion.
Yeah, absolutely.
That is what we're here to talk about.
Yes. And we've got two huge topics, spirituality and religion. And I think that's been a really hot topic for us lately and it keeps coming into my world, my little tiny corner of the world, and kind of what those two things are and how they are similar in some ways, but also how they are different.
Yeah.
And so this is a huge topic to accomplish within the next 45 minutes to an hour, but we're definitely going to do our damnedest to do what we know and bring it back into our reality and how kind of we've experienced it personally.
Yeah, definitely. And just to make it clear, we're not necessarily saying that anyone has to be prescribed to one more over the other, that one is more right than the other, that one is wrong. We're not demonizing. We are simply just creating space for a conversation. We both have had our own experiences with religion and also through our spiritual journey. And so we hope that people can relate to this conversation and hopefully maybe just explain how we may be a little bit more similar than different. And if we are different, how are we different? And when we're similar, like in what cases are we similar? So yeah, we've got a lot of ground to cover.
Yeah, and I think that recently, I mentioned that it has been coming into my world more often and like what is religion versus spirituality. And I think that a lot of people are kind of coming online and realizing or believing that there is something, whatever you want to call it, an energy of sorts outside of us. And I think that's why this is a really hot topic, is because so many people come from a religious background and there's certain things that might be triggering for them.
Yeah.
Especially when talking about spirituality, when it's just to me, those two things are very different. And we'll discuss that and why I believe that. But did you grow up religious?
Well, thank you so much for asking, T.
Yes, of course.
Yes and no. Yes and no. I didn't necessarily grow up religious per se, but there were times where my mom would take us to church.
Take me to church, honey.
Take me to church. Sorry. It's the neuro spicy brain.
Yes, I'm here for it.
So yes, as a child, my mom would take me and my sister and I to church. Not very often because I didn't necessarily want to go as like a little kid. Like I wanted to go and sleep and just stay in bed and like not do anything on the weekends. But she's like, no, we got to wake up and go to church. And it was just something that we did on Sundays. We went to a Southern Baptist church, True Vine Baptist Church for anyone in San Antonio. Wonderful group of people, very, very Black, very African American. Like I remember when I first moved to Texas and there was no Black people.
Right.
And when we first set foot into True Vine, everybody was Black. And I'll never forget being like, where have y'all been? Like, no, literally, like where have y'all been? Because I ain't seen none of y'all out here in these streets. But like a traditional Southern Baptist church, like the services were extremely long. The praise sessions were like an hour and a half out of like the 2-hour service. Like praise and worship would be longer than the actual service itself. Like that's how our church was set up. And, as a kid, I didn't necessarily know what was being said. I didn't necessarily know like the importance of the value or what people were receiving from the message. What I did recognize was, the story of Jesus Christ. Huh? Oh, thank you. And his life. We're going to cut that.
Literally cut it.
Literally. Hold on. Let me just... Okay. As a kid, going to church, I did understand the story of like Jesus Christ and his life and carpentry and Virgin Mary and all of that. And I didn't necessarily question it per se. But it was something that I learned and I recognized. I learned also what it meant to be a person, and that we are innately sinners, and the type of lifestyles that we should be living, but moreover, what we should be abstaining from. Not as much of like, this is what we should be doing. It's, this is what we shouldn't be doing, because this is a sin.
Yeah.
And we don't want to sin, right? And so for me, that was really hard, especially when I came into like, I guess that's not adolescence. It's still like childhood. Yeah. Preteen at like 11 or 12, when I realized that I liked girls at that time as well. And for me, that was really challenging because I was young and afraid of going to hell, and tried to pray the gay away, and felt very strongly like God and Jesus Christ was the only way, and if I didn't believe, then I was sinning. And so there was that notion. And you know what's actually really funny? There would be moments in time where I would question, is this the right religion to follow? And I didn't really know much about other religions that were out there, but I knew that there were other religions out there.
Yeah.
And I often wondered, like, what if this isn't the right religion to follow, and we're going to hell because we're following the wrong religion?
Damn.
Like, what if this other religion is right? Just like in Christianity, it's like, okay, no, you have to believe in Jesus Christ as our Lord and Savior, accept him.
Yeah.
And everyone else who believes differently is going to hell. And so I thought about that on the reverse ends too. And that was just a thought that just kind of planted into my mind. I didn't necessarily like, maybe it was just a seed that I hadn't really watered at that time, but it was something that had come into my mind as a child. And so anyways, that was all occurring while we were living here in Texas. We moved back to Virginia, and then we came back to Texas. And all throughout that time, we didn't necessarily go to church. My mom, she was working 2+ jobs, trying to support and take care of, you know, me and my sister. So she ain't had no time for church, okay? And I wasn't worried about church, no way. I was worried about things that I shouldn't have been worried about as a teenager.
I know that's right.
You know?
I know that's right.
And that's another story for another day. And so when we came back to Texas, it probably wasn't until maybe like 2016. I think it was like 2016 that I kind of started to reconnect back into church. I don't know what exactly it was that drew me back to the church, but I found a church that was a non-denomination. That was a weeb wobble whoop. That was
I got it.
A non-denomination church, and it's called Life Point in San Antonio. And the pastor, I really appreciated, because he was like a normal human. Like, they wore normal human clothes. They were like, everybody's welcome and nobody's perfect. Like, that's like their tagline. And everyone there was so kind. There was diversity there. I felt safe as a Black woman. I had blue hair at the time, and I felt safe to like go and be a part of this church. And one thing I appreciated about them specifically is they utilized the Bible, and they extracted certain messages from the Bible and helped to make it relatable to our everyday lives. And yes, you know, the certain, I don't want to call them characters of the Bible, but the people within the Bible that the stories are written about, yes, they would be brought up, but it wasn't necessarily like, you have to believe this in order for you to get to heaven. Like, there still was very much so a belief in heaven and hell. There still was a belief in sinning and what sinning looks like, but with Life Point, they more so focus on different ways that we can utilize the Bible and Christianity to support us and to help us grow as people. And I met some really great people from the church. I actually was involved in a Bible study that I would go to with my friends, and I was going pretty consistently, to the point where like I got baptized by my Bible study leaders. And that was a huge big moment, especially me being like 23 at the time, deciding that was something I was going to do.
Were you like dipped in water and all of that?
Oh yeah, it was
like
a whole
full body.
Yeah, it was a whole thing. I have pictures. I don't know if they're still up on my Instagram. I don't know if I archived them, but yeah, that was a really big moment for me, and it was very powerful. And I do recognize, like, whenever I would go into the church and I would hear these messages that just resonated so heavily with my heart. This was right around the time when I was diagnosed with my major depressive disorder. And so I was searching for something to help me get out of the struggles that I was feeling internally. And also I was working at a place that was just causing me a lot of, it was just a very toxic, not healthy place for me, mentally and emotionally. And so that's typically when people search for something, right? When they're not doing so hot. And that's when I found that church. And literally, like, every Sunday I went, I would cry during service every Sunday, because the message would always hit. I was volunteering there as well. So I was like deep in it. Now that I really think about it, I was deep in it for a little bit. And then during that time, I found spirituality and the woo-woo stuff, right? I started getting connected in with crystals and tarot readings, and I was on my, growth and development journey. And as I'll mention, like, I find that growth and development and spirituality are kind of, merged together, or it's like the red string that comes together. But it was challenging because I still had that nervousness within me that reflected back to when I was a kid and not wanting to go to hell for not necessarily believing one way, believing in Christianity.
Right.
I felt very aligned with what I was learning about spirituality and the practices that were involved in that. And so I slowly found myself shifting away from religion and more so into spirituality, because I felt like spirituality was more expansive, and I felt really connected to it because it helped me feel connected to all things.
How did you find spirituality? Like, how did that start?
Yeah, well, it definitely started like with my yoga journey, for sure. So I was going through my certification process, my Les Mills program, Body Flow, and we learned a little bit. And then when I was going through my 200 hour, I started teaching Body Flow on Sundays, so I couldn't go to church on Sundays.
Oh, that became your church, honey.
Yeah. So I couldn't go to church on Sundays anymore, and I was teaching Body Flow at that time, and then I was also going through my 200-hour yoga teacher training, and we're learning about the chakra systems, we're learning about Ayurveda, we were learning about Eastern philosophy behind wellness and medicine and caring for the body and energetic pathways, and all of that felt so aligned for me because it also kind of tapped into like westernized medicine. Like, it really helped kind of bridge the gap for me, and I felt very aligned to it. And so I was like, oh, this is this is some good shit right here. I'm gonna keep going down this path. And in going down that path, I realized there were a lot of like deeply rooted feelings that I had about Christianity that I maybe never faced. And people have asked me what my relationship is to Jesus Christ, and that was a very conflicting question, because I was like,
and confronting, right? Like, it was like, I mean, especially with somebody that has history, like you're literally explaining right now, of like, is this the right belief, and is this real, and is this heaven or hell, and if I don't believe that way, all of that. It's very convoluted.
I was gooped and gobbled when I was asked that question, to be honest. But it really made me sit and think, like, what is my relationship with Jesus Christ?
Right.
And I'm sure we'll kind of talk about that further into this episode. But yeah, it's been a journey, and even now I still have this like, when it comes to religion, and there's a few reasons why I feel that way. myself personally about just, and maybe I won't say like religion, maybe I'll say specifically Christianity, because it's my relationship from the experience that I've had and what I've seen. And spirituality feels more aligned for me. But I can say that based off of the experiences that I've had with regards to Christianity. So that's my story.
I have a question for you. You mentioned I found spirituality, and then like shortly after in your sentence you were like, and so I connected to crystals and whatnot. And so my question for you is, I guess, what is spirituality to you?
Yeah, that's a beautiful question. I find spirituality to be everything that exists. I think spirituality is, there are categories and there are boxes and there are ways that we try to take large things and make them small. And spirituality is not a large thing that you can make small. Spirituality is expansive. It's all the things. It's life, it's death, it's the energy, it's the very foundation of existence.
Yeah.
It's love, it's connection, it's divinity, it's like the ocean. It's
and you're
like,
just a drop in it.
And you're just a drop in it.
Yeah.
It's like a grain of sand on the beach. We just got back from Costa Rica, so we're like dreaming of a beach right now. But it is like you, me, this chair, this table, all just different grains of sand on that beach
that are interconnected and affect each other. Like it's an ebb and a flow. You're not separate. You're one.
When I think about spirituality, I think about its expansiveness.
Yeah.
And yes, we can create there's different tools that we can utilize to help us tap into.
Like crystals,
like yoga, like breath, like meditation, like all of eating, anything you do, you can connect into your spiritual workings, right? And so that's really like, I leaned into that shit because I did and I have always felt this deep connection to people, to just life, to animals, and I never saw a dog being lesser than me as a human. And even like the ants, like I would feel so bad whenever I'd step on an ant. Oh my God, just like last year I accidentally stepped on a frog and he squished. I
didn't know that.
Oh yeah,
you didn't tell me that.
He squished, but he was still alive, but I saw the little mark and I don't know, and I never found him. And literally, it still haunts me to this day, and I literally prayed for forgiveness because my heart hurts so deeply for the fact that I did that.
Oh, I know, girl.
Yeah,
I know. Mm-hmm, but it wasn't my foot.
No, it wasn't your foot.
But gosh, I can't imagine having it be my foot.
I felt it, and I heard it. It said squish.
No.
It was not good.
Baby.
I know. Oh, I know. But I think he's still alive because,
okay, yeah, he's thriving.
He hopped away. I surely hope
he's
so.
Thriving.
I hope
he's stronger.
Anyways, he's stronger. It's okay.
It's okay. It's gonna be okay.
I know. I actually
He's
feel so bad. But I digress.
I do think I like hearing you talk about it. I think that's like the one difference for me is the difference between religion and spirituality is spirituality doesn't have to be anything in particular or one thing or many things at all.
Yeah.
It's what you want it to be and how it works for you. Crystals, no crystals. Oracle decks, no oracle decks. Meditating, not meditating. Whatever your belief is, it's whatever taps you into whatever your belief system is outside of your body.
Exactly.
Whatever you believe in that's outside, whatever you think is the bigger picture going on, and it doesn't have to look or be one certain way.
Yeah.
Like in my personal experience, I do feel like a lot of religions have been like, this is what you believe and this is why. And if you don't, this is what will happen. It's very rigid. It's very structured. It's very, what's the word? It's very, I don't want to use the word it's not demonic, but it like makes you feel like you are going to be punished in some sort of way if you don't do, or you do certain things. And that's just, we're humans. And I think that's also part of spirituality, or my spirituality, is we're humans and we're meant to live here in our 3D meat suits and fully experience this earth school in all of our senses. And that is why we do this spiritual work, is so that we can get back into our little meat suit and go out into the world and live our lives to the fullest in love and be that like walking light for others. So that if anyone is like, okay, you know, she seems like she's pretty happy and has it going on, and like, then, you know, if they choose to be like, what's your secret? Then you can be like, oh, thank you for asking me, because I have so many secrets I want to share with you. And they're not even secrets. They're just like what I utilize in my spiritual practices.
Yes. And I'm sure that you can also, well, I know that you can relate, because this has been said about you as well. But the further and deeper and the more we go along this journey, the more that people seem to recognize that, whether that's energetically or physically. Like, how many times has someone, you know, told you, oh my gosh, you're glowing.
Oh, yeah.
You're glowing. You look like you're glowing. And I'm like, girl, I literally just woke up like
Out
30
the
minutes
bed.
ago. And I still got on the makeup from last night. Crusty, dusty, you know, but I'm glowing.
Yeah.
You know, and the same for you. And even times where I haven't seen you for a while, and then I'll see you again, I'm like, whoa, like you're just like radiating, you know? And those will be the times where you're like balls deep into your practice.
Yeah, and I think so much can be said about that, but it's also, it's energy. You know, I don't think that anybody can deny energy. And even the scientists usually are the first to be like, none of that's real. It's never been proven by science. We can't deny energy. And I think that we all kind of talk about the same thing. We just have different words for it.
Yes.
You know, like the woo-woo, we say, oh, manifest this, manifest that. And then we've got scientists that say, oh, like quantum physics, or I don't even know what word they would say. But then we've also got religions that say like prayer. And so it's just all the same thing. We're just calling it different things because, again, it's like this, as a community and society, we've been taught like must be this way, like this division, when reality and spirituality, we're all one. We're all the same. We're all like ebbing and flowing together.
Well, just like that song, I always mention it every time I have this conversation. It's Odessa. If you love Odessa, you know what's up. But I can't remember the name of the song right now, but the line goes, everybody prays to a God by different names. Tell me your version. And I feel like that's exactly it. Like you were saying, some people subscribe to science. Some people subscribe to religion. Some people subscribe to spirituality. And, you know, I feel like those three are so much more interlinked than not subscribing to anything at all.
Yeah. Like,
you know?
Yeah. You're right about that. Because, you know, put a scientist in a room, a religious person in a room, and a spiritual person in a room.
Right.
If you actually are all open-minded and willing to talk about it, you'll probably at the end all walk out and be like, oh, we're all kind of saying the same thing.
Yeah.
But if you throw an atheist in there, it's like there's not really going to be able to be that conversation where you all walk out feeling the same and be like, oh, we are the same.
Right.
And I think that's true about, well, I don't know. Maybe, I guess it's a little bit different with agnostic people.
So I think that we both can agree that there's a lot of similarities between spirituality, science, and religion, and there being a little bit of difference in like how we approach the thing, maybe. Would you say that kind of theme has trended for you along your journey? Like, did you go through a Christian or religious type of life and then boom, now you're here? Were you maybe a little bit more agnostic and thought like, oh, well, nothing exists, and you know, and now we're here? Like, what was your experience for you?
Yeah. So I grew up with my mom. My mom never really made us go to church at all. She, like, if we wanted to, she'd be like, that's a good idea. But she never personally took us anywhere. I met my biological father and his mom, my grandmother, when I was like 6, 7. And she was Baptist and heavily religious. Yes. Like drove the church bus to pick everybody up. And yeah, so I would wake up early when I was with her every other weekend. I would wake up early and ride the bus and go to this like huge Baptist church that was on, I think, 675 in Ohio. Shout out 675 in Ohio. 675. And I didn't really know what was going on. I was young and I was like, yeah, like I'll go. And it was really a weird, uncomfortable time for me in so many ways. And I ended up getting baptized, and that was really awkward and weird, like getting butt ass naked. Put into like a little sheet cover when I was maybe like, I don't know how old, 8, 9. And I remember the church, it was like, you know, the round pews, and then up in the wall, they like open the curtains and you just like look up towards the wall behind like the pastor and everything. And they dunked me a few times and then walked me back out. And then I remember my grandma was like, so you're baptized now, you know what that means, right? And I'm like, no. And she's like, okay, that just means you can't watch Simpsons anymore. And I'm like, first off, how do you know I watch Simpsons? And second off, why?
Yeah.
And so it was just a very, like, I guess forced upon me in a weird way and age where I'm just like, what is going on? And then I think when I was maybe 10, 11, I stopped seeing my bio dad and grandmother, and the religious stuff stopped as well. And then I kind of found myself into like atheism and being like, nothing exists. Like, and I kind of was there, but not like devout about it. Just like, there's nothing there. Like, it's kind of more science based in a way. And then I was like, you know what? Who am I as a self-proclaimed atheist to say nothing is there? It's the same thing as saying something is there. Like, neither of us have, back then this was my thought, neither of us have any proof. And so then that's when I was like, okay, I'm agnostic. Like, nobody knows. There could be something, there could be nothing. Like, I don't know. And I was probably that for a really long time, like most of my life. And then I think it was when I hit rock bottom, and I was like, actually, this is kind of funny. I kind of forgot about this, but the guy that I was dating at the time grew up Catholic. And so during holidays when the families would get together, I would go to like Catholic services. Yeah. And it's funny because I was going to say ceremonies, but same. Yeah. And I remember the last time I ever went into a church, I went to grab the like hat that they collect the money in. And he was like, no, and like yanked it back from me, the person carrying it, not my partner. And I was just like, oh, like, this man thought I was going to try to take this money, and like just like not knowing that this is like what
you're supposed to do.
Yeah, and just feeling like ostracized or like reprimanded for trying to just like help, you know, and pass the bucket of money. But like, yeah, so I remember I told my partner, I was like, I'm not going back into a church. Sorry, I'm just not. And he's like, can't you just go in and like have your own practices while you're in there? And at the time, I didn't have practices. I didn't believe in anything. And so I was like, no, I'm not going back. And it's interesting because now I'm like, yeah, I could. Like, I could go in and I could utilize that time for my own sacred practices and kind of maybe zone out what they're saying, or maybe pick up the moral of the story and utilize that in my life. And I also happen to just, I love art history, and so I love churches. So being in a church and witnessing the beauty in there, it is kind of profound for me. So that's been my journey. And I think once I hit rock bottom, kind of trying to understand what is happiness and how do I find happiness. And again, I think a lot of people know this part of my story is I found The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. And in that book, he refers to God and he refers to a lot of spiritual talk. And while I was trying to heal and find happiness, it's like reading how he spoke about God, it really helped me kind of have like this understanding of why that word is used. And although I did not prescribe to that word, at least for like another year or two, I could understand. But even if I heard people be like, oh, well, like God this or God that, I'd be like, oh, you believe in God?
Yeah.
And I was like, what, you know, like I would kind of look down upon them in a way. Like, why do you, what makes you believe in God? And then it was actually Jess who started using, like, she wanted to start a podcast and she was going to call it Hot for God. And I was like,
oh, goodness.
Ha ha ha. What?
Yeah.
But like then I started to realize, I was like, oh, she's just using God as a word that everyone's familiar with.
It's
to
like an insert here.
Yeah, it's just the source, the energy, the universe, whatever you want to call it, that's outside of us. And I was like, okay, like I can do this. Like I can slowly start to introduce this word and throw this word around. And honestly, at this point, like I kind of do forget sometimes that people feel some sort of way about the word God, because what the word God means to me is not what it means in religions.
Yes.
And so that's where I'm at, is like trying to be like, have that space and that grace for people who have had this strong religious background that I never really had. So like the word God, although it did mean, like I was judgmental about it, it definitely wasn't as profound of a meaning to me as a lot of people who grew up as a devout religious practitioner, I guess, for lack of a better word.
Yeah, the word God is still a word. I mean, we've had this conversation many a times when it's from the beginning of our friendship to even now, and I still have this, I don't want to say negative relationship with the word God. It's because when I speak about God, I want it to be very clear.
Yeah, you have to.
Who it is that I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I'm talking about the universe. I'm talking about source. I'm talking about the divine. I'm talking about everything that is. Energy. I am talking about pure consciousness. I am talking about the expansive everything. And so when I speak about God, and I will use the word God, I will, because, and I'll use all of the words interchangeably, but when I hear other people use the word God, I'm like, who are you talking about?
Yeah, it makes you stop.
It's a very different thing.
Yeah, it's actually kind of, it's wild that not wild that you're saying that, because I agree with you, but last night I went to a yoga class and the first two songs that were playing were like sounded like Christian songs to me. And like that, just hearing that type of music, and again with my very brief history of being involved in a religion, I was like, oh, this doesn't, is this Christian music? What are they saying in here? Like, what are the lyrics? It's a different energy. It's obviously a different belief system nowadays, but it's a different energy too, that even like right now I'm talking, my body is stiff. Like it doesn't feel good to me, because it's such like you must believe this way. And I also think because religions, for the most part, where they're at today, are so pigeonholy and like, you must be this way and it means this, and they didn't start that way at all. Religion started like before the whole like Christianity movement. Religions were just all the same. They all had the same message. They all had the same stories. They all had the same morals. They all worshipped earth. And they all had gods. And so I think, you know, after that movement, that's when it really started to be like a constrictive outlook on whatever's the outside of us, source energy, gods.
I think it's very easy to feel turned away, or feeling like, I don't know what that word is, towards, and I'll just speak towards Christianity specifically, because that's all that I know, because of the things that have been done in the name of God, and the things that are still done in the name of God, and the people who worship said God behaving in ways that I don't think are very godly.
Well, I mean, even speaking as to like what's going on right now in the world, and just utilizing religion to completely eradicate whole masses of people just because they're different. And, you know, this isn't the first time that we've seen this, but it's people have used and continue to use religion in ways to differentiate and for negative things, whereas like spirituality is more love, and like everyone is connected, we're all the same, everyone should be having equal rights because we are all equal. No one's better. You're not better than that frog. You know what I mean? Like it, and in a lot of the religions that I hear about today, it's very much a separation. Like, oh, you know, you believe that, like, we can't be together, or things of that nature.
Right. And I think that there are some similarities, like what you spoke to earlier, within religions, you know, like do well unto your neighbor, and, you know, treat yourself and others with kindness. And there are different like moral agreements that you will find throughout different religions that are kind of similar, but it's buried very deep down underneath all the other stuff.
It's almost like, and not all religions and not all religious people, obviously, and same goes true for spirituality. Not all spiritual people and not all spirituality, like there's such thing as spiritual bypassing, or using your spirituality to do negative things. Like that is something that is probably going to be coming up in the next couple of years, especially because of what's going on in astrology. But like these narcissistic leaders who are going to use spirituality to kind of like bring more people in to their following and whatnot. But I do think that as far as religion goes, it's definitely a separation, like I said, like it's a separation versus the unity. And that's where you kind of have to like step back and be like, okay, is, you know, love thy neighbor and have good morals and treat everyone how you want to be treated. Is that truly how you feel inside? Are you doing that because you know that's good, or are you doing that because you're told to do that? Because that's the religion that you practice. Is it a facade, and underneath you have all these other things like, oh, I'm gonna love thy neighbor, but thy neighbor is gay. So then what? It's like, how do you go about that? It's just very interesting to me, like people that follow, say, the Bible, for example, and the interpretations of that book, and even the history of that book, and all the different variations of that book, and how people can come from all those translations and iterations of the book and be like, oh yeah, by the way, not allowed to like you, but I'll like you from afar, or like I'll send you love, but I actually don't wish love upon you. It's just, it kind of makes me wonder like how much of that is a facade versus how much of that is, are you truly genuine in your actions and in your life?
I think when it comes to the Bible, it can be a little bit more challenging. And there are, I think, different types of believers in the Bible. People who think it's a literary, like you got to take this literally, right? And everything that's being said. Or there's other people that, you know, feel as though the Bible is more of a metaphor for how it is that we should be living, and lessons that we can be receiving, you know, from the information that's in this book. And I feel as though it would be more understandable to take the Bible as, you know, a metaphor in that way. However, I think it's also challenging because there have been so many different versions of the Bible, and there have been so many different books within the Bible that have been removed. And so it's kind of hard to, you know, build a religion on a specific foundation, specifically on this book. Yeah. This book that is your Bible, it is the Bible, and it is the guidelines for the way that you live your life, and pieces of that book are missing. So that's something I've always struggled with, especially when I was, you know, practicing Christianity, in that we're humans. This was a man-made, you know, we all know that all humans sin and we all have flaws. So how is it to say that everything in that book is divinely true and divinely accurate? So there are a lot of qualms that I had personally with the Bible, and it was never necessarily something that I could really like get into and really resonate with. And I think that, to your point, when it comes to rules and regulations that you're expected to follow, and you just following under this religion because you're being told to. Someone had mentioned to me at one point in time, and I can't remember who, but when they did, I had a light bulb go off in my brain. They were saying, like, as a person of color, especially as a Black person, an African American person in the United States, how can you subscribe to a religion that was forced upon you by your masters? And the fact that we, as a people, as a community, you have some very, very, very devout Christians who are people of color, not just, you know, African Americans, but POCs, just point blank, period. That is not the origination of our faith and our belief systems. That belief system came to us through a spread of violence and conquering and trauma. And so to continue to operate under this belief system is such an injustice, and to at least not even to question this belief system is terrible for me to even consider. And so once I had that realization, it really just like fully solidified for me that Christianity wasn't something that I can prescribe to anymore. Yeah. Especially because of what it has done to my people, and the fact that the only reason why my people follow this religion is because of what was done to them.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, what a huge, profound realization to have and to share on this podcast. Thank you so much for like putting that out there, because I do think there's still so many groups of people, not only people of color, but white people too, where you and I have had this conversation where I was like, what is like, kind of like, where did spirituality come from and religion come from for white people? And what does that look like for white people? And not to switch this from people of color to white, but it's also like, for white people, like, why are you following this religion? Like, do you know the history of it? What are your practices, and why are you practicing those things, especially spiritual white people? Like, where are you getting your practices from? And what is the history of your practices? And what's the meaning of them? And are you honoring the culture in which it comes from? Do you know the culture in which it comes from? Are you allowed to be practicing that way? And I think that all of that is so, it just comes back down to, I think for me, spirituality. Everything is spirituality. Even religion is spirituality. But it's knowing what works for you and why it works for you and why you do the things that you do and honoring those practices. I think it comes back down to education and just honoring yourself. Yeah. And it's as much as it's the horrors and how horrific the Christianity came about for people of color, it's really also a question for white people. Like, what, like, why are you prescribing to this? Right. And does it resonate for you?
I think that when it comes to anyone doing anything, it's so important to question your belief system, to question why you feel that way, to question why are you making that choice, why do you believe what you believe. And that is peeling the layers of the onion. Like, spirituality is also just like growth and development. The self-love, self-help growth journey is about really connecting into the truest essence of who we are deep at our core, not based off of societal expectations, not based on, Billy Bobby Joe, was raised Christian and decided to raise his daughter's daughter Christian, so now I'm a Christian. It's not, my dad was a doctor and so I'm going to be a doctor. It's, not, this person said all gay people were bad, so I'm not going to talk to gay people. It's like, no. When you sit with yourself and you actually think about something, whatever it is, does that actually feel aligned to you? And if I were to be a Christian, or for anyone who does prescribe themselves to be a Christian, and you sit down and you really sit with yourself and think, does this actually feel aligned for me? And the answer is yes. Hell yeah. Love that for you. Go off, sis. That's your journey. And that is right, because you know it in your heart of hearts to be true and to be correct, right? And of course, there are going to be people who know in their heart of hearts that something can be correct and something can be right and something can be true. But I think that if anyone is subscribing to anything that is not the foundation of love, then it's not truth.
Oh, that just touched my heart and made my eyes tear up, because literally in my mind, if you are not practicing pure, genuine love and gratitude in every single action that you take, then my suggestion is for you to sit down and ask yourself why that is. And where that comes from. And I think that's how spirituality and healing's intertwined, is because there's going to be some things within you that are making you act out of anything other than love or gratitude. And I think intentionality is everything for every action that you take in this world. And we're going to slip up. We're humans, we're meant to live in this 3D meat suit, but the more that you can practice being intentional with everything that you do in this life, every action that you take, that to me is what spirituality is. Because if you really sit down and you're like, okay, I'm going to be intentional when I do this, or when I say this, or when I have this conversation, or when I take this action, then you are, I would hope, acting out of love and stepping into the gratitude for that, what is life, and every moment that you have. And that to me is my spirituality. Yeah. Like, that is what has helped me heal, continue to heal, connect with others, connect with myself, connect with source, and just raise my frequency so I can show up in this world honestly in effort to help others, like just to help others have a little bit lighter of a life. And that is my spirituality, and I know that's the same for you too.
Yeah, that's definitely the same for me. And as you were speaking, I was just like, yes, 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 feel so aligned. And then I started to think about what spirituality can mean for other people. And because spirituality is so expansive in its essence and of its nature, there are people who, like, I think that spirituality is also on a spectrum as well. And there are people who will go way far to the right or way far to the left and really connect into some very what people would consider out there ideas. And what is out there for me may not be out there for you, and what is out there for them may not be out there for me. And so because spirituality in essence is so expansive, I think that it can sometimes get a bad rap. And for example, when I was at the Japanese tea gardens and I was doing that sound bath, and I had my bowls and I was just playing the bowls, and after, this woman came up to me and she so sweetly and so politely asked me about the bowls, and she was like, oh, well, you're working with the chakra system, like, aren't the chakras like demonic? Isn't that witchcraft that you're doing? And I chuckled to myself because I could tell that she was being serious. And so I'm like, where did you get this information to think that, you know, this practice itself was witchcraft? And so I expressed to her that, kind of like the notion we spoke about earlier, well, there are so many different ways that you can approach how sound therapy and frequency works. And if you want to look at the Eastern perspective, going through the chakra systems, the energetic pathways, how we're moving energy throughout our body, we can do that. If you're wanting to look at the more scientific approach, we can talk about the brain waves and the shift in the brain waves that happens whenever you are laying and resting in this experience. We can talk about the levels of serotonin that are increased in the body, which is going to actually help you feel happier, more refreshed. There's so many different ways. Nervous system regulation, all that good stuff. So to consider something like sound therapy to be witchcraft or demonic, I find to be so interesting because it's a lack of education, a lack of understanding, and also people may be holding on so tightly to other belief systems that may not truly be correct in theirs. And when we talk about this notion of witchcraft and practicing witchcraft, you can think like, oh, well, that's like lighting of the candles, and that's, you know, the smudging, and that's, you know, the crystals and the other rituals that we can have. But also, what I also find to be witchcraft is like, I mean, it was just Easter Sunday. What did everybody do? Were they eating the body of Christ and drinking the blood of Christ? That sounds very
lighting candles, burning the smoke,
praying, you know, wearing the certain color. Like, that all seems very ritualistic to me as well. And so when we really actually take a step back and we take a bird's eye view of these topics of conversation, we'll notice that there are so many more similarities than people would imagine. Like, yes, of course, there's a lot of differences as well, but there are a lot of similarities, and some things that people may demonize spirituality for is actually practiced in Christianity or other religions.
Yeah, because they all started from the same place, and that was just setting up your own altar, wherever it might be, to connect with whatever it is outside of yourself, and to guide and to lead you. And that is what it is. You can set up your altar anywhere. This can be our altar right now. And whatever it is that we want to connect to, whatever word we want to use for it, that's always been the practice of humanity forever, for eternity. Like, that is our connection to earth. And our original worshiping is the abundance and everything that comes and is provided to us, and the gratitude for everything that we have. It all started from there.
Yeah.
It just started to come out. You know, some people's words or methods or ceremonies resonated with more people, and therefore more people started to go in this route or that route or that route, which is beautiful and fine and great. Community is key. But again, it comes back down to, are you prescribing to something because you've been taught that? Are you prescribing to something because it's aligned with you and you've sat with it?
Yeah.
I think one other thing that I do want to touch base on with spirituality, because I do think, I mean, we're called wooed up.
Yeah.
I do think
we're woo-woo, Haney.
Yeah, we're super woo-woo. And I think that there's so many topics of conversation to be had on this podcast alone that you and I have definitely discussed, and topics that we have not discussed. But with spirituality, there's so many different ideas and beliefs within spirituality that I still like. I'm like, oh, that's an interesting concept. Mm-hmm. And then I'm like, do I believe that? Mm-hmm. Is there a way for me to believe that? Mm-hmm. And only until, for me personally, my practices, only until we talk about alignment, I have those personal experiences that like confirm, hey, oh, that just happened for me, and that's what that person was saying. Yeah. Okay, all right. Now I believe that because I literally experienced that.
Well, it's funny that you say that because that is science. That is theory.
Exactly.
Theory, and the prescribed theory that we hold to be like, okay, well, this is the theory that we're rocking with, theory of relativity. This is the theory we're rocking with, until they find a more aligned, a more correct way, that theory is going to be all that in a bag of chips. Think about all the theories that science has come about, and then all the theories that have been disproved since then. And what we're rocking with right now is based off of what we know. And until we know more, then that theory is going to change. Yeah. And that is the same exact thing for, well, I think it should be the way in which we live our lives, because we're receiving more information. And so the fact that you are open and flexible really ensures that you are still flowing with that line of information, and once again just tapping into your beliefs and saying, is this something I actually believe to be true?
Yeah. And I think also with me having such like a science mind and not background per se, but needing to have like these, well, is there a scientific study that proves that? And it's like, no, for most of this there's not. But for me, I did my own scientific study, you know? And every time someone's like, well, how did you start with your spirituality? Like, how were you like all of a sudden like, oh yeah. And for me, I always tell people, if you have something specific that you want confirmed, just speak it out. Just say, you know, if anybody's there listening to me, God, goddess, universe, source, energy, ancestors, angels, if anybody's out there, I know that I'm not a believer right now. I'm skeptical at minimum. I want you to show me a sign that da-da-da is true, and fill in the blank. And also, even more so, be specific about the sign is. I want you to show me a red cardinal if you are really here speaking to me right now. And that was my sign, and I talk about it all the time. Like, I wanted to know if my grandmother was actually really here on this earth with me. And a huge ass cardinal came to my window and pecked over and over and over again while I was meditating right in front of my face. And I was just like, what? And from that moment, because I had asked for a sign and it was delivered right then and there, and I asked for a clear sign, I can't deny it. And that's my scientific experiment. Yeah. And I encourage anyone that's wanting to start their spiritual journey, continue their spiritual journey, to keep asking for the signs.
Absolutely.
And that's your science, and that's your connection.
Yeah. I feel like that's what faith is. Period. Yeah. But really ensuring that you're doing your part and not just like believing in anything willy-nilly. Like, you still need to have discernment.
Right.
Discernment is still important, and that's still something that needs to be had. And when you are dipping your toes into something new, if asking for that sign is what makes a difference for you, then ask for the sign, honey. I ask for the signs all day long. I talk to my spirit team. My feathers be coming around. I'll be having a mental breakdown, and I find a feather somewhere random, and I'm like,
Or 444.
Or 444. My God, my spirit team. I know they get tired of me because I'm like,
It is, and I think spirituality is one big experiment, because it's like this, okay, and then it's a trust and intuition and following, and then it's like, and then it's like, okay, that step that way, I'm getting messages this way, and it's just like this realignment over and over.
It's the journey, it's the everything, it's being open. I feel like we could do 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 hours
just on spirituality
in and of itself.
And no hate on religion.
I know, I was thinking
but
about
only
that.
if there's hate in the religion.
Yeah.
That's all I have to say about that. I don't want people to feel like if you're religious that you can't be spiritual. You can definitely be spiritual as you're practicing a religion. I mean, that is what that is. But again, just making sure that you're aligned and that it's, I think, out of love. And if it's not, you need to sit with it. Do you have anything else that you want to say to wrap up our first episode of season 2?
Yeah, I think that when it comes to the topic of conversation, religion, I think that something that maybe religious people may say is that, you know, these people existed in life, like Jesus and Buddha and, you know, any other big names of different religions. And I personally believe that they did exist. I do believe that they're real. I think that they are major names in history. And I believe that they were here to serve a very, very large purpose. In my personal opinion, I believe that they are like ascended masters, if you will. So they are, you know, spiritual beings, came down to have a human experience just like you and I, and they were here to do something very big in the name of spirituality, right? Preaching love, preaching oneness, preaching, you know, all of the different things that Jesus actually preached, I think is foundational for spirituality. And I think that in order for spirituality to reach the masses, it was very important to have different people coming down in different places of the world to spread that message, to spread that truth. It's not like, you know, one man could be the whole difference for the whole wide world, and everyone's culture is different. So the way that, you know, one culture may accept something may be different than another culture. And so I think that the universe, the creator, source, whomever, is very smart in that way, and sent down multiple people at different times of existence, right? I'm sure we're probably going to have another person come up somewhere, you know, one of these days. But I think that's how that all played out.
No, I completely agree with you. I think that these religious figures did exist. They were human beings that lived here, that were here to spread the message, and maybe got the message, it clicked for them in their brain sooner, and they were able to understand consciousness. You know, they talk about Christ consciousness and what that means, and, you know, Jesus Christ coming back versus like himself, like that old dead body, or like, is it his consciousness and all of us who are awakening? So yeah, I think that that's a really good point to bring up, and just to kind of link the spirituality and religion back together. Beautiful point to end on.
Yeah, I think that was a lot of conversation, a lot of things to bring up, and there was still so many other things that I feel like could be touched on that didn't. Like I said, we could talk about this for hours and days and many episodes to come, and hopefully anyone who's watching received something beautiful from this, or at least has gotten people thinking, and I hope that we can continue to have this conversation It's not to say that you or I are 100% right in the way that we see, perceive, or believe. And that's not to say that anyone watching is fully 100% right and correct in their belief systems as well. However, I do think it's very important to have these types of conversations respectfully and peacefully.
In love.
And enlightenment, and just for the better of all of us. So hopefully that is how it is received by the viewers. But I feel very complete.
I feel complete as well.
You feel complete?
Thank you for sharing this time and space with me to touch a big subject.
It's a huge subject.
Yeah.
And thank you guys so much for listening. I hope that you enjoyed this episode. We've got plenty more to come, and we look forward to seeing you guys in the next one.
Thank you.
Peace.